Yo, what is going on, all my fellow homebrewers? Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. The HBYOB crew is here to talk about yet another intriguing subject. And I guess this is what, part 6, part 9, part whatever.
It's been gone for a while.
It's a
continued.
Saga. It's a saga, right, at this point.
Right.
But we've gone through each of the, I guess, steps or even just the thought process of trying to derive a actual homebrew recipe. We've talked about, go back and check out the previous episodes. Go and check out the YouTube channel, HBYOB on YouTube, and each of the episodes leading up to this. It's probably been like 3 months we've been working on this, talking about ingredients, talking about equipment, talking about literally even just the process of brewing. We've gone through it all. So now finally, here in April, we are here to talk about actually coming up with a recipe. So of course, we couldn't do it without our own resident homebrew master himself, the owner of HBYOB, Joey Brumley. How you doing tonight, sir?
Doing very well.
All right. And then, of course, the curmudgeon himself, the guy that speaks to the people that don't know a ton about brewing because he doesn't know anything about brewing.
The common man.
The common man. Mr. Pricer, how you doing, sir?
Now, hey, I have brewed, Chris. Don't
I know?
You know,
I know. See, I'm already getting you started. I'm
Right.
already getting you started.
Right. I have made brownies from a box.
There you go. So that's our plan here tonight, and we're going to do this in 2 ways. We're going to set this up in a couple ways because there's tools available online for you to create your own recipe, and for those that are kind of, I guess, timid or anxious about doing it on your own, we want to at least walk through a couple of examples, or at least one example of a tool that you could use in order to create your own recipe, where as you put in your amounts of your grains, your fermentables, your hops, and so on and so forth, it will allow you to see as you're building it in real time what the expectation is in terms of your gravity readings, your IBUs, all that stuff that would go into it. And so that's one thing. The other is that we're going to try and create one essentially on the fly, because that's what Mark wants to do. He wants to make sure it speak to the common man, because Mark is a man of the people.
Well, Joey even said he has a lot of customers that come in with my thought process, which is I want to invent my own. You know, I want,
and that's what we're gonna do.
And what's the process?
Right. Exactly. So we're gonna work it both ways. See what we come up with.
Okay.
So Joey, let me kick it over to you first because we want to try and do it. At least we'll use the tool set. We'll build a beer that most folks should be aware of at this point, and it's probably been our, like, I don't want to say gold standard, but at least it's been our standard for however many years we've been brewing. And so tell the folks like how we're going to do this, how we're going to set this up.
So basically, whenever we get on cast, we always discuss kind of how everybody does it different. So when people come to me and we always use, because it's the tried and true, it's been around forever, we constantly talk about Sierra Nevada Pale Ales, kind of our base beer. Just because I think a lot of people are familiar with it. It's been around for Sierra Nevada is kind of one of the pioneers of the craft beer scene in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And so that's where I want. It's been I think it says on here. I love their slogan. It says family operated and argued over. So they'll fit in perfect.
That's us. That'd be us.
Like the show.
1980, first brewed in 1980. So yeah, I was right. So
older than me.
So I put a couple links on Facebook and YouTube if you're there. So basically, say we're just going to use the example. Hey, I want to brew a pale ale. So a lot of times I'll say, okay, well, let's pull up what kind of pale ales do you like? So say I like Sierra Nevada pale ale. Say I like Zombie Dust pale ale. Say I like, what Burning River pale ale by Great Lakes. Whatever your pale ale recipe would be, I like to pull up recipes so I can see. Like I always say, I like to paint from what I know. So I like to find some similarities. So the first link, I'm going to share your screen here, Chris. This is directly from Sierra Nevada's website. The first link I sent y'all. So you can just see 2-row of pale ale malt, caramel 60. Then it discusses, those are very straightforward grain bill. Then it discusses your hops, all Cascade hops. So, but here we've got no integers of anything. It doesn't even really, it does tell you percentages. So I don't know if you want to discuss, Chris, kind of like what basically in brewing software, a lot of times when you get recipes, you get it in percentages because your efficiency of your recipe or I'm sorry, of your brew system is going to deter, basically how much or how little to add.
Exactly.
But if you can click on the other link, Chris, the center one there, this came from BYO magazine, and they're actually giving you like a 5-gallon, 10 pounds, 4 ounces, a 2-row pale malt, 1 pound of C60, and they're doing it a little bit different. They're adding that kind of like the bittering units, because some recipes won't tell you, like here, they tell you to the right, a half an ounce, because that's the you can see the 12% alpha acids from the hops. So some recipes won't always tell you amounts because the alpha acids can change.
Right.
And you can see in their recipe already, the BYO magazine's gone a little rogue. I mean, Sierra Nevada is all whole leaf. We do sell those in the store, all whole leaf Cascade hops versus, what you're seeing from the BYO magazine is not going to be whole leaf hops.
And even more than Cascade.
Exactly. So what's weird there is instead of all Cascade, you can see they use Magnum, they use Pearl, they use Cascade. A big part of that is because you can use less because those are higher alpha acid hops. And the Magnum's going in at 60 minutes. So you're really not going to taste the difference. There shouldn't be a flavor difference between Magnum and Cascade at the 60-minute mark we've talked about. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. You can see you can't see my mouse. You go up, Chris, it shows you the OG, the original gravity. It's showing you your IBUs. So now we have an estimated gravity, an estimated IBUs. I don't think the SRM is on there that I can see out of the bat, which we'll
SRM
discuss
equals 10.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we've got an SRM to work with. So at this point, what I would do with the customers, I would say, all right, here's a Sierra Nevada. Here's the Burning River Pale Ale. Here's the Zombie Dust. Okay, look at all the similarities between the two or between the three. And now I think at this point, we can run a basis of how we want to build our own pale ale recipe for Mark. So I can show you basically and all this is a recipe you can easily find a clone of. So, that's the thing. We can't always, I had a customer that wanted to do a clone of, I can't remember what it was. I know Truth's a big one by Rheingeist. Yeah. Truth's a popular beer around here. There's not really a lot of great recipes out there. So sometimes we'll pick out beers that are close to Truth that we can find recipes, but aren't exactly, necessarily Truth. So I guess at this point now want to formulate our own recipe.
Well, let me interrupt here real quick. Would you consider pale ale the vanilla ice cream of brewing? I mean, is that kind of the basic, or what would you consider the most basic beer?
I wouldn't say basic. I would go with like a cream ale or blonde ale. I think that's about as basic as it gets at the homebrew level, because you're making a lager style beer, but there's nothing really, I don't want to talk down. It's just an average beer. It's not a hoppy beer. It's not a malty beer. It doesn't really.
But if someone's starting out in brewing at the first time and doing their first recipes, though, again, I guess I'm trying to put it in layman's terms of ice cream. Do you want to perfect the simple ones first before you do a lot of crazy things?
I actually generally say the opposite. Go with a pale ale or like an IPA. Or a stout. Go with something crazy because you got a lot of flavors to kind of mask your imperfections of you as the home brewer.
Sure. So you're saying it's harder to make a perfect vanilla ice cream when it comes to brewing than it would be a more flavored beer where a flavor will hide another flavor.
If you ever fuck up an IPA, dry hop the shit out of it. Or if you ever fuck up a beer, dry hop the hell out of it and call it an IPA. I mean, bingo. I don't want to be disrespectful to breweries, but they do it all the time. They were shooting for something else and go, oh crap, it's a hazy. We're just
bring over the Citra. Bring over the Citra.
Yeah,
so we can dump it in.
Throw some pineapple. Put some fruit puree in there, dry hop the hell out of it and call it a hazy, stamp it, let's move on. I know Branch and Bone, they had a couple barrel aged beers that they were dumping, and they just were basically like, we can't blend it, it's so messed up, we can't blend it, we can't do this. Sometimes you just got to dump it. But my point for that is I'm trying to think of a better analogy. It's like I don't know ice cream because I don't eat ice cream. Like steak, I tell people all the time, buy a good steak. If it's not medium, oops, it is what it is. A really good cut of steak, I would prefer it not to be well done, but from rare to well done, I'll eat it. You buy a cheap steak, if you screw that up, you're chewing rubber if it's well done. That's kind of the analogy. Like I said, I don't know if it's like ice cream, but my point would be brew something bold and flavorful early on, because you've got a lot of flavors to kind of mask some of your imperfections of potentially your temperatures, your fermentation. A lot of errors in the beer can be masked with a lot of flavors.
Okay.
So now, like I said, I just want to do a pale ale recipe because I think most home brewers getting into it, pale ales are generally the beer style that kind of get them out of the normal beers. Once you start get out of BMC beers, a lot of times people will get into like a lot of wheat beers. But pale ales, I think, are kind of a happy medium, especially when I see in the store. Amber ales and pale ales are generally a lot of beer styles that people newer to brewing, and even people who've been brewing a long time, generally enjoy. Yeah. So that's why, and we already discussed why I want to do a pale ale recipe. So now we got the frameworks. We know we're going to go with around a 1050 wort. We know we're going to do around 37 IBUs, SRM 10. It doesn't mention anything about like that's where talking to me, I can help you out. We don't really discuss from this recipe why we're mashing at what is
this
the mash
temp?
155.
Yeah, 155.
So we know kind of 155 mash temperature. And so now I would throw the floor over to Chris so he can discuss. And if you don't mind, I kind of want to be a little bit of the, I guess, Chris, tell me what you want out of a pale ale. And then that's where I'll start telling you integers we're going to start messing with.
Sure. And just to piggyback off of what you were talking about a minute ago, Joey, I think this is a good process for folks that are interested in learning how to create their own recipe, because like you mentioned earlier, I think the word that you use, framework, is the perfect word for describing kind of what we're doing right now. Because if your target, let's say, even like the basic home brewer, like Mark, you're looking at this, you don't care about alpha acids, like per se, at least not at this point. Let's say if you're just learning how to brew, you don't care about alpha acids.
That's correct.
You probably don't care about IBUs, at least not right now, because you may not understand like what they mean, maybe even SRM. But what you do care about out of all those targets up here, maybe you want something that isn't too alcoholic. You don't want you don't want a high octane beer. So you know what ABV means. So if you're looking at these ingredients, so you're saying 10 pounds of, whatever this is, for the 2-row, and maybe a pound of this, and that's going to wind up giving you this 5.6% ABV, but you're thinking about it saying, well, I want something that's a little stronger. I don't want 5.6%. I want 6.5. Or let's say I don't want 5.6. I want 4.5 to 5, because I'm more on the Miller, Bud. That's what I like to drink. Something that's not going to, kick me out or anything like that. So from this framework that if you do a little bit less, you might have a little lower ABV. You do a little bit more, you have a little bit of higher ABV. So doing this type of research and just getting an idea of what your, I guess, structure for the recipe is going to look like, I think really sets you up for at least giving you a basic idea of what goes into the beer, if this is the style that you want to brew. Now, if you want to go completely off the rails and like we were talking earlier, like, add fruit puree and dry hop with Citra, like whatever the case may be, that's a completely different story. But if this is essentially the mold that you want to start off with, then this is what gives you those numbers. And then after that, that's when you can just start tweaking knobs, adjusting amounts, and then that's how you can go, and you can kind of take it from there afterwards.
Well, I'm looking at it from the aspect of like, hey, I want to enter in my own pale ale into a homebrew competition. Versus when you start talking fruit, I know besides you, Chris, when you start talking fruit purees and stuff, that's, to me, I always use the term like, now you're going rogue. And if that's fun, that's why I got into homebrewing. I got into homebrewing so I didn't have to follow anybody's opinions, anybody's advice, any beer style. I wanted to go rogue. I wanted to experiment. But to me, I'm still trying to keep you within a framework of, hey, when you go home, I'm giving you something that's a pale ale. You're not going to be, you may not be in love with it, but you're not going to be completely like that guy at the store was out of his mind. This turned out horrible because I've added too many different we went way too crazy with it. So
he told me to add like chocolate at some point, and mix in whiskey or whatever, like after it's done, or just something wild or something along those lines.
Which, if you want to have fun with that, by all means do it. Sure. You can ask me what I think, how it's going to react. If you're going to, most commonly go, hey, if I throw whiskey at it, am I going to screw it up? So most of the time people just ask me like, hey, this is what I want to do, like the fruit puree. Am I going to screw it up? My answer would be no. Just make sure you don't bottle it, very shortly after you add the fruit puree, because odds are fermentation is going to kick back up.
Right.
So now if you want to, Chris, let's make our own pale ale recipe. And I don't know what piece of software or what you're using. All right. I'm not familiar
So this
with
is
that
over
one.
at Brewer's Friend. I mean, brewersfriend.com. They've got a whole bunch of different tools. I mean, heck, if you sign up over there, this is not like a promo or anything like that. We don't have any sort of relationship with them, but it is convenient because they do have like a whole bunch of tools like calculators if you want to be able to calculate what your ABV is going to be, and takes out like all this other stuff. And then also, if you have your own profile, it allows you to actually save your recipes. So if you don't want to have to go through, and I know we talked about this on a previous show, but like I mentioned, I think this might have been like a couple of shows ago, but like if you don't keep notes and stuff like that, like I do, and you don't want to have to deal with spreadsheets and all that other stuff, this is the type of software. This is a tool that will allow you to save all that stuff. So if you want to refer back to it, you can. But
so
if you want to,
I was gonna say, so let's just go ahead and start. We'll just start from the top and move down. That way we can even kind of discuss the shit we're skipping over. So scroll all the way. Are we at the top?
Yeah. Oh no, actually no, we're not
Okay.
at the top.
So author doesn't matter. Units, gallons. So style. You want to type in pale ale and style.
Yep. And pale ale. Let's go ahead and take a look.
We're gonna do American if it gives you the option. Pale ale. It's probably gonna ask you American. Yep. American pale ale.
Yep.
Subcategory. I don't even know what that means. Batch size. I always do mine for 5.5 because after yeast and everything, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose, wort and everything to that.
Yeah.
Boil size. We could probably skip over that.
Yep.
Post boil. 60 minutes efficiency. I think 70% is a little adventurous. Getting started, do 65 there.
Oh, I was gonna do 60, but yeah.
I think 65 is doable.
What? Explain efficiency real quick.
So efficiency is basically what you're getting out of your grains.
Okay.
So basically, the better job you do at efficiency, the more you're going to get out of it. I would say even seasoned homebrewers generally don't get above. They usually hover around 70%.
Even though some folks will say they get higher, but they're not using the right efficiency.
A lot of times they're talking brew house efficiency. We've discussed that.
Right.
Yeah. And see, it even says right there. See, these softwares fuck with you to make you think that you're getting more than what you are. Fermenter uses brew house. See, fermenter uses brew house efficiency, which is ridiculous. We don't want that.
So I guess you should probably use kettle then.
Yes, try that.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, that's what we want. Because the brew house efficiency is basically you could boil your wort down for 7 hours before you started adding hops, and you're going to get 100% efficiency. But realistically, we're never going to do anything like that.
Right, but that changed the batch size. That originally said 5 gallons, right? Or 5.5. Now it's 1.5.
Yeah.
All right, so go post batch size. So go turn that back to 5.5. Like I said, sorry, I'm not familiar with this software.
That's okay.
While we're doing that, a lot of recipes that we can discuss or other softwares is I use Beersmith for many, many years. It's a very cumbersome piece of software, very in-depth. I use the Grainfather software now because that's what I typically brew on. The numbers seem to spit themselves out pretty good, and good because it's just for that. So, all right. So I think we got that kind of dialed in. So now if we go down, so my first thing, I like how they're starting off with fermentables. So Chris, what do you want to shoot for as far as ABV goes? Do you like the 5.5?
Yeah, 5.5 I think is fine.
All right, so I in my opinion, we could do 10 pounds just like they did. Now, do you hit add because we're going to add some more grains?
Yep. Where is it?
Right below. Right there.
Oh, there we go. No, that's 100%.
No, down. There we go.
Yeah.
And then, so now color. So Sierra Nevada's got nowadays standard. Sierra Nevada's kind of dark in color in comparison to the good old days.
Yeah, which is pretty cool because the software tells you like over here, it updates as you go along.
I got you. Based on the ingredients you're adding.
Yeah, and you can even see, our gravity. So our gravity based on the numbers we spit out, and this is why I like this conversating with customers because very few people get 70% mash efficiency. So we can already tell. We're kind of getting a template of we're on the lower side of what we're shooting for. So bump the pale ale to 12 pounds.
Okay.
There we go. I kind of like where we're at because we're gonna add some other ingredients, which is probably gonna bump it up a little bit more. So my thing to you would be, Chris, or I guess I'm steering you. I don't want to brew a beer, or I'm gonna say you don't want to brew a beer quite as dark as Sierra Nevada, right?
Right.
Sierra Nevada used a caramel 60. So let's go with a caramel 20.
Yeah.
Let's go with a caramel 20 just to keep it a little bit lighter.
So let's see. We're gonna go crystal.
Right.
Let's see. 20 level bond.
We could do a pound just like that.
All right.
And I like a little bit of a multi flavor. Not so. Like I said, I'm trying to. I'm acting like both people right now. A lot of people really like honey malt. So let's do a 1/4 pound of honey malt in there.
All right. 25.
And that's where when you really get dealing with recipes and seeing recipes and not, I'm keeping numbers in line with what's air quotes normal. Because if someone said, give me 1.5 pounds of honey malt, I would say, please don't do that or I don't want to say, please don't do that because honey malt, you have to be careful with. It very much will sweeten your beer up to be like candy sweet. You don't want that. So I would say most people like a good, nice head retention, lacing on the glass. So let's throw some Carapils in there. I know Carapils is really good at that.
And what they, if I'm remembering correctly, isn't it typically a percentage of the rest of your beer? Like I've seen somewhere between like you want to take either 10% or maybe all the way up to 20% of your total grain bill at the of your fermentables. Have you heard the same?
I mean, I would
typically about like a pound.
Throw a pound in there. Yeah. And you can see when we're putting it down in there, like it's telling you the percentage of your grain bill. Like right underneath the pounds.
Yep, 7%.
So if you had a recipe that asked for percentage, you can play with the numbers so that they work out. All right. So I would say grain bill wise, where are we at fermentable? So now we're at 6%. See, I knew we were going to jump up. So go ahead and throw that to 10.5. Let's meet in the middle. Oh. All right, cool. So I would say that's kind of where we were shooting for. Now we're going to talk hops. So back to in true Trident form, in remembrance of Sierra Nevada, let's throw an ounce at 60 minutes.
One, so then we'll have
Cascade. And I would
say they do actually allow you to change the alpha acids,
which is perfect. So go ahead and do it 12.
Yep.
Because that's what they were working with on their recipe.
Now, pellet or
new pellet. Because most people are going to be, like I said, it's very whole leaf hops have kind of extinct themselves. And then this is where, to me, it's like, all right, let's have a little bit of fun. All right, now let's do, you can see IBUs. We're at 26 IBUs, and the original recipe was
they didn't give it
37.
To us.
So we're most of the way there. So now we know. So I know that let's throw a 60-minute edition, but let's have some fun now, because at 30 minutes we can have some fun with some other hops. So let's throw in, let's say, a 1/2 ounce of Citra. Citra is really popular these days. We always talk about zombie dust. So now let's start brewing the beer. We'll take what we like about Sierra Nevada, and we'll take what we like of zombie dust. All right. So there's that. Okay. There's and when it comes to hops, back to, you can read about very common hop hop styles. All right. So we're at 34 IBUs. Scroll down. I say let's throw another ounce of Citra at, say, 5 minutes.
That's going to give you some aroma right there.
Yeah, buddy. All right. And then lastly, let's give it a nice aromatic tint. So now let's, instead of boil, let's throw 4 ounces, because this is where you can have fun. So let's throw 4 ounces for dry hop. Yep, you're on the right. You're on the right.
Dry hop?
Yep. Let's keep it somewhat simple. Let's throw 4 ounces of, you have fun, Chris. What do you like? I like Amarillo there.
Yeah, I was going to say, since I just happened to see that, either that or, I think that's fine. Amarillo's fine.
Now, the issue I'm having is you guys are picking things that you know.
Of course.
Okay, but do you know that just from experience, or maybe the recipe you've already found, or just the knowledge from Joey when you go in to buy stuff?
I just know over the years when I've seen so many pale ale recipes, people commonly use the same hops. And we're making an American pale ale, so we're going to already roll out all the noble hops. Like your Willamette and Tentenang and Pearl and all of those, hops kind of go out the window. And American, on all of our hop packages, they tell you the the flavor and aroma and all that of the hops. And so back to, you could read pale ales. You're not really going to find a lot of grassy notes in pale ales, generally speaking. So generally, like, since we're making an American pale ale, we're going to choose American hop varieties.
Mm-hmm.
And so throw 4 ounces into there.
4 ounces. 4. Give it what? 2 days?
I would say give it a week. Give it 7 days.
7 days. All right.
Because back to you, like I said, we're trying to keep the show without completely going forever. And I'm trying to, like, even though I'm very much directing the conversation, if you came into the store, we can really sit down and discuss each one of these things. That's different. So once again, we're right in line with IBUs.
Yeah.
So the other one was 37, 39 is very close. We're in line with the ABV. The SRM is 6.5. We were shooting for something lighter than Sierra Nevada. Sierra Nevada was 10. So, I mean, so far, if you just said, hey, I want lighter than Sierra Nevada, I don't want the piney notes from the Cascade, I think I would have done a pretty good job of giving you something that's your own, with, letting you guide yourself along the way.
Right.
And then scroll all the way down now. So now we need to talk, because like I said, we're running out of time here. The 1.5 quarts, I actually like the fact that they did that. We could bump that. We'll leave that alone, because like I said, that's a topic for another day. Grain temp, I don't think that's our mash temp.
Or no, oh yeah, that's right. Not grain temp.
Yeah, that's
so like room
that
temp?
just means room temperature. So say 70 degrees, yeah, whatever. So the amount, there we go. It's spitting out numbers. All right, target temp 152. I don't have a problem with 152. I think 152 is a good number, because if you go a little bit lower than 152, no big deal. If you go a little bit higher than 152, no big deal. 152 is kind of the smack dab center of giving you room to play, especially when you're new to home brewing, so you're not stressing as much to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then other ingredients. That other ingredients would be where, if you want to talk about purees and orange peel and shit like that.
Now on that target temperature.
The
fact you just said you have a little leeway. What changes the most if that's, I don't know, off 5 degrees one way or the other? Is it going to affect color, taste, flavor, aroma? What effects are you going to change the most if the temperature itself changes?
So see the starting. Yep. So if you go lower, that original gravity is going to go higher. And if you go higher, the original gravity is going to go, I think I said that backwards.
Yeah,
if you go lower, the original gravity is going to go up. If you go, no, it's at your final gravity. Your final gravity. So if you go lower, your final gravity will get lower. If you go higher, your final gravity will go higher. So what that means in layman's terms is, the higher the temp, the sweeter the ending product. The lower the temp, the drier the ending product, which is what's reflected in the final gravity.
All right.
Yeast can be a big factor in that too.
Right, which we haven't put in yet, but
and so it's kind of funny. We talked about Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. The good,
that's cool.
The WLP 001 is Sierra Nevada strain, and it's kind of the gold standard of pale ale recipes. So I would say Sierra Nevada started the pale ale popularity. Let's use its 001.
Yeah.
Yep. So brand, we don't have to. That's White Labs. Doesn't really matter.
I mean, you could put anything that you want at that point, but yeah.
So just to 1 each, because back to, you could add more yeast.
Yeah.
And scroll down, and then so actually we'll go up and we'll go the rest of the way down, because we're, like I said, we're running over time, and unfortunately I got to roll. The scroll up. Sorry, Chris. So water chemistry, that's a topic for another day.
Oh yeah.
And we need to get somebody else to discuss that topic than me. So like I said, we would leave that alone. We're going to leave that alone today. Priming sugar, we're going to leave that alone today. That's if you bottle beer, and that's basically the amount. So that to change carbonation, Chris, you mentioned taking notes. There's notes down there. There's if you want to add photos.
It does everything that you'd want.
So keep scrolling down. All right, hit back to top. So HBYOB, call that cast recipe.
Bam.
And hit save.
And then this will give you then an ingredient sheet or something then that I would take in.
You should be able to now print that out.
Yeah, It's not letting me save. Oh, because I already have too many recipes on my profile,
so
but I can save it.
This software, like I said, if you was to save it, you could print it out, and then you would have a sample. I was gonna say, I don't know if you have a different one that you already have.
So let's see. I could go back to. Oh no, because I can't save this one. I can
It's
do
okay.
this.
It's
Yeah.
okay. But basically, when you get that, then you would print that out. I mean, you could even just do a screenshot of what you have, and I can figure it out.
Right.
But most people bring me in, like I said, unfortunately, I can't share my screen. I say most people, there's a magnitude of different ways. But even that, if you showed me that on your phone, I would know exactly what to pull in the store. So that's really, we basically made that recipe 100% our own. We took inspiration. We took a lot of inspiration from Sierra Nevada. We took a lot of inspiration we took a little bit of inspiration from Zombie Dust, and we took a little bit of inspiration of I like Amarillo hops.
Yeah.
So,
but like we said in previous episodes, it's just what you want to drink. So adding in those things, it kind of creates that for you.
Hit more real quick. To the right.
Yeah. Bam.
So, and then that is, I think this is probably what you're going to like, Mark. This is showing you where we've passed and failed. So our original gravity is within style. Our final gravity is within style. Our ABVs within style. Our IBUs are with style. SRM is within style. I mean, we made an American Pale Ale.
Yeah.
And it took, like I said, it took, and yeah, there's telling you different stuff that if we brewed that beer, that would drink nothing like a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, but it would still be a Pale Ale. And like I said, I like to make recipes that are, take inspiration from other things that become my own. And I know, Mark, you're kind of, still frustrated, but for me, it took years. I tell people this all the time. I still suck at making recipes. I'll admit it, but I have seen so many recipes and I've brewed so many recipes from books, from websites, from whatever. You start to, over time, you just learn.
It's a knowledge base. It's a knowledge base you have. But
I guess here'd be a better way to answer it. Hey, Mark, make me chocolate chip ice or cookies. There's no way you're going to know how much baking soda to use, how much sugar to use. You're going to have to print recipes on the internet. And yeah, you might want to add more chocolate chips or dark chocolate chips or mini chocolate chips, or add some vanilla extract because your other cookie recipe, like you can change it slightly, but at some point you have to start from something that you know. I mean, you can't just go, and that's where a lot of customers, I think, do get frustrated with me, and I say this jokingly. They'll come in and go, make me a stout recipe, and I'm like, well, you don't want me to do that. And they're like, well, the guy at the other homebrew store used to do it for me. I go, yeah, how shitty was that beer? Like, if you want me to get you out of the store as quickly as humanly possible, I'll make you a stout recipe, but it's going to be my stout recipe that I already have in my head. So I'm not coming up with anything original for you. Or you're going to get home and it's going to be disgusting because it could be too bitter. It could be too sweet. I have to start. Anybody who is just making you a recipe off the top of their head is either making you a terrible recipe or they're giving you their recipe. And I'm not pointing a finger at anybody, but I'm just saying, like, I would even say head brewers at breweries aren't just completely shooting from the hip. They have years and years and years of recipes under their belt. They know how ingredients, back to kind of like what we were discussing earlier, I know how ingredients interact with the beer. If you was to say, let's dry hop it with 4 ounces of, I can't say it. Puggles. I'm going to go for an American Pale Ale, probably not going to be what you're looking for. And if you was to say, well, how about Galaxy? I'd say that would be a good one. What do you think of Galena? Maybe not. What do you think of El Dorado? I think that would be a good one. Like, I'm going to be telling you, I think those are good choices, or I don't think those are good choices, or I'm kind of neutral.
Okay. Well, what we did tonight gives me a little more idea of next show where we can talk about, because I wanted to still get into where you guys both start, period. Meaning we'll get into that next week, or next show. Like if Chris goes, hey, I want to brew this weekend. I just want to get into Chris's head and go, okay, you want to brew Saturday. It's Monday. What do you want to brew? And how do you decide that? That's still part of my part. Meaning, like you just said, I want to make cookies. Well, I'm going to sit here for a minute and go, well, what do I say? Does snickerdoodle sound good? Does a chocolate chip? What do I want? And in some cases, it might be what's in my cupboard already. You know, what can I
that's
work
a big
with
one.
ingredient?
Yeah.
Trust me, I've had customers come in and say, there's a lot of hop programs out there where they sell you like a hop of the month club. And
Right.
so brewers
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I've got all these hops. I want to make they call it trash
Okay.
can beers. Like I want to make a trash can beer. But my point is if you go to a bakery and say, bake me a cake, no one's just going up there and go, this time I'm going to use this much flour and that. I bet you they have a book they're opening up. And the ingredients that they use or source or whatever.
Well, they have their vanilla ice cream. They
Fair
have
enough.
they have their vanilla cake.
So,
You know? Okay.
So what I would say now is we completely shot this one. This is as quickly as I could say. I completely kind of shot this one from the hip. I would like the opportunity to brew this recipe. If anybody else out there, if Chris, when you can get a copy of that, or I can print a copy of it, we'll share the link on our Facebook page. If you would like to brew that recipe, it'll be available here at the store. We can discuss using some different yeast. We can do whatever. But then I'd like to try the beer. So we're talking, you're going to have to give me a month and a half. In a month and a half, we'll sit down, we'll drink the beer and go, this is what I like about it. This is what I dislike about it. Now we'll talk about doing this recipe version 2.
Right.
And that's to me where you start that's to me when you go, okay, let's sit down and Chris, Mark, I want you to try the beer and go, I get this flavor and I can tell you what that flavor's coming from, hopefully. Right. And you can go, I don't like this. I mean, you can be honest. Like I said, you can not like my beer. I might hate it and go, this is what I don't like. This is what I do like. And then we can do V2. And then in my opinion, now we're talking brewing competition and brewery level beers.
Right.
Because
You're practicing and narrowing it down.
And then, like I said, because if you look at my recipes, most of them start off this way. I pluck something off the internet. And then if you look at my V4 recipe compared to V1, they almost look nothing alike anymore. They completely transform into their own thing.
Okay.
So I'm going to brew this beer because, like I said, I know enough here that it's not going to be undrinkable. So like I said, and then we can taste it and take it from there.
All right. And I think next show, I still have a lot of questions on how and why and what your thought process before you even get to this point. You know, that's, in my opinion, tonight, that's kind of what we kind of skipped.
Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get a print out of this. We're going to share it. We're going to share it. And I vote the next one we break down where you, Mark, I want you to completely go, why the hell did you do this stuff, Joey?
Right.
And I swear to you, I thought about none of this ahead of time. Other than Sierra Nevada, I gave Chris 2 links. I truly completely shot this recipe from the hip. And now I want you to dissect it, Mark, and go, why the hell did you do this? What made you just randomly think this? And I can give you an insight of what went through my mind when I made all those decisions.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Sound good? And then like I said, hopefully I'll brew the beer. And then the next episode, we can drink the beer and go, this is what I like. This is what I dislike. And here's what I would do different if I brewed this beer again.
Okay.
Or sometimes they're so bad, we're going to go back to drawing board because this was a no-go. I've done those. My pumpkin beer.
All right. Let's call it a show. And, you know, I appreciate, people for coming in and again, leave your comments, if you stop in the store, talk to Joey about the recipe. Real quick, Chris, where can we find you?
Find me on Twitter at Chris Allen FFWX. This show in and of itself will be also on the HBYOB, but also with our sponsor. You see down in the bottom right-hand corner, 32-bit. Go check out the other content that's going to be there as well. So come find me there.
All right, Joey, take us out.
See you next time. See you in 2 weeks, everybody. If you want to brew the beer, come see it in the store. Good night.